all of us here are obviously at a desk ready to learn. So we are self-motivated to come to school. But before we had to do that, we had to apply and take our SATs and SATs. Those are tests that college admissions look at between a pool of students in order to see who gets admitted to the college. Today I'm going to highlight why the SATs and ACTs are ineffective examination tools. By doing so, stating why it demoralizes and categorizes a student, how college admissions, that shouldn't be the only reason why college admissions look at a student, and because schools are getting unfairly prepared. So now that I've given an overview, let's go into why it demoralizes and categorizes a student. So as an experience, I took the SAT. One, I had to get up at 6 in the morning to be there at 7. The night before, I had to sleep around 1 because I was studying for them. The test takes roughly around 3 to 4 hours. I think they give you 1 break or 2. I took it twice, so I think the first time I got 1 break, the second time I got 2 breaks. They test you on math, reading, and writing. It's a 3-hour test for you to be sitting. Like, I don't think it's justified for students to sit at a desk for 3 hours to test on something for only 3 subjects. With that, also, I believe it's a short time to show admissions that it's the capability you have for them to look at the 3 subjects. There's a study done by students in Concordia University saying that these teachers are more focused on teaching you these preparatory classes for the exam of SATs, but yet there's less time in like social studies, sciences, and like any other activity you have. With that also, we're going to move on to, it also demoralizes the student because when I was sitting there taking the SATs, I was like on board with all the math. Like I was like, I know this, I know this, I know this, like I know the answer. But when it came to like towards the end, I got stuck. And then you know how teachers tell you guys, oh, just move on and then come back to it? So I did do that, and as I like kept going on, I realized that I didn't know any of them. So it kind of lost my hope in like, oh crap, like I lost my chance in going to a university. And let's also say like, you get your score, your friend gets their score. You guys look at it and like, oh, like I got a 400, and then your friend gets like an 800. It's kind of like, oh, like I'm not gonna go again, you know, like I have a low test score, my friend has a score, like they're officially admitted, like I lost hope. Now let's move on to why some schools are getting more prepared than others. So we all know that low-income schools are not getting enough funds to be prepared, and high-income schools are getting enough funds. So like for the low income, they don't have the amount of funds that these high incomes have, so they're not getting well prepared as the high income. The high income also have an advantage because they can hire they can hire tutors, they can go to classes, they can buy the practice books, which gives them an advantage. As for like the low income, they don't have none of that. There's a study done by Gloria Santiago. It's the gifted students in low education. So there's these like group of students that are talented in academia, but they're not getting viewed at any point. They're kind of like put down, like saying, well, look at where you are, like you can't go to college, like you don't have the money for it. As for like these other ones, like the high income, have that advantage because they are exposed to that at a young age. Now let's move on to why college admissions should view something else rather than just the score. Students are not just the score, we are more than that. Let's say you're compared to someone that has the same score as you, but they come from a higher academia or a higher income. What is it any different from me just because I got 2 points smaller than, like 2 points lower than they did. The difference is maybe I had to go to work because, again, I live in a low income, so I have to provide for my family. Maybe I had to go pick up my siblings, something they didn't have to do because they were stuck studying. Like, it shouldn't be fair that the college admissions should only look at a number. They should look at the background. Again, like maybe I could have done an extracurricular activity. Their extracurricular activity was going to a tutor and studying. In the beginning of his presidency, Barack Obama had pledged in January that he wanted more low-educated students to come into these universities. And by doing so, he did this optional testing. So now when you apply to a university, it's optional if you want to put in your test score. So in conclusion, I believe that we shouldn't view students as a score. I think we should view them as what they are capable of and what they can show to pursue in their future.
Emmerich, you got some opinions?
Yes. Let's see. I think it's very persuasive. The beginning, I think it's very smart to say that the students that are actually in the classroom are self-motivated, so the blame isn't really on them. It's more on the grading of the test or the entry exams. I think it's a good point that schools should focus more on the person. I think that's something that most people can agree with. You talk about the long test. I think maybe it might have benefited to show how being in a room for 3 hours might affect the grades. Maybe some statistics on differences between taking a shorter test might improve the grades if they split it up between different days, so it's not just one whole 3 hour thing. Then you speak about the biases between subjects. I think that might have also been helped by statistics on maybe lower grades on certain subjects that are more common among students, so more students are doing worse on these subjects between these tests. I think the transitions are really clear and they're easy to follow along. You speak about the low-income schools versus high-income schools. I think that might have benefited from some sources on what kind of actual benefits they get. I think you do talk about some of the stuff, but I think it might have been helped from actual sources. And I think a strong point of the speech is the personal experiences. So people that actually have to work and have to take care of a family or maybe even have kids, that's not taken into consideration when they're applying. So somebody might have more things to do and they're still able to keep up their grade. I think that makes a strong point for why they should be considered differently than somebody that's maybe a first-year student that doesn't really have any kind of responsibilities but might have the same grade. They're not necessarily the same tier of student.
All right, well, you said most of the things that I was planning on saying, so you did a very good job on that. I thought that you did a pretty good job in the opening, setting up the subject and organizing it. I do think that it could be a little bit more distinctive in the body of the speech as you're developing each of those points with some particular example other than your personal experience. Your personal experience is, I think, the thing that does give it some relevance and makes you a more credible figure. But if there was some information that came from a variety of sources that have criticized the SAT process, I think you'd find that you would feel more confident in your speaking about the subject, and your audience would feel more like we are getting something that's based on research rather than just on your own individualized experience. I didn't understand what the whole reference was at the end to something that President Obama did. If there was an incentive to discourage universities and colleges from using the SAT exam as the tool for making decisions, you need to cite what that incentive was. We don't really get any information about this, so that felt a little bit confusing at the end of the presentation, which is not where you want us to be confused. At the end of the presentation, you want us to have a clear vision of what it is that you're trying to say. And ultimately what you're saying is that the test has problems built into it because of the way it works, the way it influences the education process, and the disparities among people who take that test. So as a result, we really shouldn't be relying on it as the primary means of making decisions. That, by the way, is a presupposition that I think you need some information on that suggests that this is in fact the primary means by which, how many schools use the SAT or the ACT to make the decisions? How significant is it in their decision-making process? You make it sound like it's the key that opens the door or slams the door shut in your face, and I'm not sure that that's the case. You need to give us some reason to believe that that is the truth. All right, thank you.